Church family. I'm Scott Weatherford, and you know who I am. And I want to really talk to you about what's going on in these unprecedented days. We've really been struggling as our response to COVID-19, and what do we do during this pandemic, and how do we approach things as a church? And what I think you've seen us do is really be prayerful and flexible. We've leaned into our online gatherings, and they have been amazingly successful as we've been creative and innovative and delivered content, God-honoring content through our internet sources that it's just reached people in 21 states and 5 countries of the world with several thousand tuning in every week. We've been amazed by the effectiveness of this new ministry. But I'm like you, and I long to come back together, for us to come back inside. What we've done this summer, trying to kind of bridge the gap through advice of trusted healthcare officials, which is Dr. Dale Faulkner, part of our leadership loop, we determined that outside gatherings were safe and effective, and we've done a few of those. We got rained out one time, but we've done those, and your attendance has been, well, about 20% of you have shown up at those. I totally understand that. It's not very comfortable and outside in the summertime in Texas, and some of you are just basically fearful. A lot of surveys have been done about where people are and as in position to church, and what we've discovered is about 20 to 30% of people feel comfortable about coming back to gatherings, while the rest are, well, they're just confused. They don't know what to believe. So we've tried to make prayerful decisions. So all of this has caught us off guard, but not caught God off guard. So with that in mind, I want to talk to you about what are we going to do moving forward? What is going to be our response? Now, I want to say this to you. So much of this pandemic has been politicized, either by one group or another. And I want to help you with that, because I don't want you to fall victim to political meandering or political manipulation by people with agendas, and they do have agendas. You got to remember, we're in an election year, and agendas abound. Some things like wearing masks, it's become a political thing. If you wear one, you're a sheep. If you don't want to wear one, you're a rebel. If you wear one, you care about people. If you don't wear one, you don't care about people. Well, that's all pretty ridiculous. And so let's try to move away from those kind of emotion-packed things. And some of you right now are arguing with me on this video. It's okay. Just take a deep breath. What we have to do is consider historically how to respond to a pandemic. So I've done some study about pandemics and how they worked, and the most recent we need to look at is the 1918 through 1920 Spanish flu. And it's interesting how it got its name. Because news media was censored during that time, during the war, the only news outlet that was able to talk about the pandemic came from Spain, because Spain was neutral during World War I. So they named it the Spanish flu because only Spain was talking about the pandemic that was literally sweeping the globe. During that time, now get this is crazy, during that time, 1/3 of the world's population was infected with the Spanish flu. 1/3. And approximately 100 million people died. Now, there were some things that caused this to be such a devastating pandemic. First of all, it was a lack of information. People didn't know what was going on, so the flu was able to spread. Second of all, it was during the war, and there was a mixing of troops and mixing of people from this continent to that continent, this continent to that continent. Traveling was abound, and so the disease was spread. One of the big factors was a couple of things, actually 2 big factors. Malnutrition was one, so people that were starving during this time, hungry during this time, well, they were more susceptible to catching the flu. Also, hygiene, the lack of great hygiene. In fact, in the nations of the world where hygiene is suspect, the flu spread more rapidly. So things like washing your hands, wearing a mask, other things that your mama taught you not to do by the time you were 2 and older, is the things that caught people off guard. So there's some things that are being said that are absolutely true. Hygiene is very important in stopping the spread of a pandemic. We need to pay attention to that. Now, with all that said, let me say this. I learned this, that the Spanish flu actually was delivered in 4 waves, and each successful wave became worse than the next until there was herd immunity. And then the flu went away. And another flu virus came, the same kind of flu, swine flu, you remember that. And then there was the bird flu, and you remember that. Now there's COVID, and we're all remembering that. So we look back at history, and we learn some things from history that it helps us to move forward. Now, with all that said, and I know that's probably way more information that you wanted to hear, what are we going to do as a church? So many of you ask questions about, Pastor Scott, when are we coming back together? And I want to answer this with this. We have to answer why before we answer what. Everything hinges on the why. Why do we gather in the first place? We gather to spur one another on to love and good deeds. The message of Jesus Christ is more important than the method of its delivery. Now, we want to gauge our spiritual vitality through what we attend. And attending is very important. Don't misunderstand me. Community is very important. It's one of our key life commitments. We want to be connected to God and with each other. But there's times where we have to think about the safety of others before we connect. Now, I'm going to say this, and I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but we have to face the fact that we have an older congregation here, that a lot of our folks are old. And a lot of folks, like me, well, I'm old, and have underlying health conditions. There's things that make us more vulnerable to COVID-19 than other flus or influenza or sicknesses, and so we need to pay attention. Now, I want to give you some statistics because I love statistics, and I know you do too. Here they are. Our super elderly, that's 75 plus, are twice as likely to contact COVID-19 when exposed. The 0 to 44, younger children, they pretty much are not going to get COVID-19. Now, the Spanish flu, the young people got it, and it killed them off in rapid numbers. But COVID-19 is a little different, and so the younger kids are not really affected. Actually, 0 to 44 are mitigating effects. A lot of people get it, they're asymptomatic. Other people get it, they have mild symptoms, and they're over it fairly quickly. And you see the numbers in Hays County in particular, which right now, y'all, 14% of our counties tested positive for COVID. That's a tipping point. Anything over 10% is considered a pandemic. We're full well in it in Hays County. But the plus 75 is the most vulnerable, twice as likely to contact it, 8 times more likely to die from it, 10 times more likely to be hospitalized as a result of it. And then it doesn't get much better for 65. In fact, if you look at 0 to 44, if you're over 65, you're 1,000 times more likely to contract COVID and die than you are 0 to 44. Okay. So with all that said, we are strongly considering and looking at the data. Now, this is not data that's coming down to us from draconian sources. This is data by our very own trusted healthcare officials and us looking at it intently. Last night, I'm recording this on a Wednesday morning. Last night, we had a leadership team meeting of our ALT, our advisory leadership team. This is our board. This is our governance. This is who I'm a part of and I'm responsible to. They are the following: Ryan Weeks, Corey Pack, Dewey Fuller, Casey Mock, Neil SQ, John Dunn, Buddy Elazor, and Mike Stevens. And Mike Stevens is our chairman. We also had some of our other key staff people in this meeting talking about how we should move forward. We came up with unanimous decision about what to do, and I will share that with you in just a second. But this is stuff we've been prayed for. Now, with all that said, I want to say this. We had some guiding principles that we use to make these decisions, and I want to give those to you. First of all, we're going to err on the side of safety above everything else. We're not going to err on the side of political preference or of any other kind of preference, personal preference. We're not going to err on that side. We're going to err on the side of safety. We're going to look at what's best for our people. We're going to listen to the experts, but we're going to ask God to give us godly wisdom. We're not going to wring our hands. The Bible says, do not fret. That means to burn with anger. We're going to trust the Lord and ask Him for our wisdom from Him. We're going to think long-term, not short-term, and we're going to act quickly and be ready to pivot quickly when the data allows for us to do that. If the COVID cases descend quickly in Hays County, then we're going to change our course of action because we're going to be fast and fluid and flexible during this time. We will adjust as needed to fulfill the mission of King Jesus. Our mission to build lives that honor God, all for Jesus, whatever it takes, will not change, and we're going to use whatever method that we're possible to fulfill that mission. We're going to be prepared and we're going to be prayerful. When we do come back inside, it's going to look very different. It's not going to be normal, not the new normal. I hate that, the new normal. No, it's going to be transitional. hopefully one day we'll be able to return to a wonderful, spirit-filled, hope-filled, life-filled, energetic gathering of the beloved. But until that time, we're going to have to make some adjustments. So when we do come back, it will not be normal, and it's not going to be the new normal, but we're going to do so in such a way that provides the maximum amount of safety and security for everyone involved, especially our most vulnerable. Whatever we do, we're going to do in love. I'm never going to make you wear a mask or not wear a mask. I'm going to wear a mask. Because I think what this does is, it makes you safe from me. I'm going to have to limit my exposure to people. And I hate this. I'm going to have to stop shaking hands and hugging necks. That kills me because that's what I love to do. I love you guys. I didn't get in as a pastor. I didn't accept this call from God to have a speaking gig. I did this because I love people and I love Jesus and I want people to love Jesus. It's just hard for me, but it's not about me. It's about King Jesus and it's about taking care of you. So I'm going to make these concessions. So whatever we do to serve Jesus and to serve one another, we have to set aside our rights and privileges. So here's the decisions we came up with last night. Now, they are not written in stone. Hopefully, we can pivot quickly and change, but here's what we've decided so far, that we're going to host 2 more outside gatherings this summer. Really? Yeah, really. On July the 26th, we're going to have an outdoor gathering beginning at 9 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday morning, and we're going to celebrate Wyatt and Pat Warren's retirement. We've got to celebrate these faithful servants of God. They served well, and they're retiring at the end of July, so we're going to have a great outside gathering for them. Wyatt's going to speak. I'm going to speak. We're going to have some fun with Wyatt. We might have some bacon because he loves it so much, or sausage wraps or something. We're going to celebrate because outside is safe. Dr. Dale says outside is safe. We can do that. We can properly social distance. We can see each other and love each other, and it won't be creepy. So outside on the 26th. We're also looking at another date in August, and tentatively it's set for August the 16th. That's right before school starts. And so we're going to have a back-to-school celebration outside and just woohoo, apple for the teacher. And we're going to do those things so that we can have an outside celebration. And hopefully, right now we're looking at going back inside in September. When school starts back, going back inside, opening children's ministries, the whole deal, and trying to have the way it's supposed to be as we gather together as a church. We're going to hopefully do that. So that's our plan for right now. Now, we are going to continue to provide our online resources. I'll be continuing to produce video content for you. I'm looking at writing more devotionals to put it in your hands so you have more to read. We're going to do more videos to help you. We're committed to making our online experience more creative and more dynamic and more accessible and more shareable. We've been studying other churches, what they're doing online. We're learning from them. We're learning good things and we're learning bad things. We're learning things that we could repeat, and we're looking at each other going, we ain't never doing that. But that's okay, because we learn and we grow, and we want to be the best that God wants us to be, representing Him through this ministry called First Baptist Church Wimberley. And we're committed to doing that. Now, here's some suggestions I want to give to you. You need community. You know you do. There's some people that you know that are safe. I'm going to call them your COVID cluster, that you have those folks in your life that you know have not been exposed. Why don't you gather with them? Have a watch party. Do it on a Sunday morning or a Saturday afternoon or a Monday or whatever. Watch our content that we're providing that's honoring God and leading to God-honoring life change. And then look at it together and just start loving for and caring for one another. Reach out to the most vulnerable. We're going to intentionally start calling our older folks again, and we're going to make sure people are okay. Right now, down the hill from me, we're preparing 250 meals to feed children in the Wimberley Valley for the next 7 weeks because we're leaning into hunger in this valley. Malnutrition contributes to pandemics, so we want to make sure kids are fed. So we're doing that. And it's at great cost to us, about $15,000 of food, not including the man hours, just to take care of kids in the Wimberley Valley over these 7 weeks, partnering with our school districts, partnering with other churches. But First Baptist is bearing most of the brunt of that expense. So we're doing that. We're also offering tutoring right now for kids with gaps. And we're going to make sure kids going into first grade and leaving fifth grade, that this time that they've been sequestered and not being able to do school, we have tutors right now helping them to cover those gaps. We're doing this because children are least vulnerable to the virus, and we're making sure we're doing safety checks, temperature checks, gifted teachers, which my wife is one of them, doing those great things right now on our campus. We are doing things to make a difference. And I want to encourage you to be loving, to be open. Now, some of you are just mad at me right now. Please don't be. Knowing that decisions we're making and the way we're moving forward is done out of love. It's not done out of politics. It's not done by mask wearing or all this other hootenanny. I don't care about that. I have one political allegiance, and that's to King Jesus. So I want you to know that. We're doing this to care for people, to care for our most vulnerable. I do not want to bury anybody because of COVID. I don't want to do that. I'm right now mourning the loss of people, not from COVID, but from other diseases. And as a pastor, it breaks my heart. I know I'll see them again, but in that gap time, I just love you, and I want you to be safe, and I want you to be cared for. So let's go together with this. Let's do things in a way that honors God. And I wrote this, and I want to read it to you. The world has shifted, but God has not shifted, and he will not shift. The methods have changed, but the message of King Jesus will not change. We'll stay the same. All for Jesus, whatever it takes. Outside, inside, online, all for Jesus, whatever it takes. Last thing, remember, never forget, I love you, and I'm so honored to be your pastor, leading in these difficult days, but leading nonetheless because we do it all for Jesus. I hope this helps. God bless you.